On August 1st, 1989, California opened Pelican Bay State Prison, 700 miles from Los Angeles, windowless cells, 23 hours a day locked alone. The state built it specifically to shut down the Mexican Mafia's leadership. It didn't work. These 10 men ordered murders, collected drug money, and controlled entire neighborhoods from inside those cells. Let's get into it. Hit like, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you think this story deserves to be heard. Hit hype. That button only works on mobile, and every tap helps push this video to more people. Number 10. Braulio Babo Castellanos. In 1988, a Los Angeles courtroom sentenced Braulio Castellanos to life in prison for 2 counts of second-degree murder. He was 30 years old. The judge probably thought that was the end of the story. It wasn't. Braulio, known on the street as Babo, came up through Florencia 13, one of the oldest and most organized gangs in Southern California. The gang controlled a stretch of South LA, bordered by Slauson Avenue to the north and Alameda Street to the east. Braulio didn't choose this world. He was born into it. His older brother Arturo was already deep in the gang before Braulio was old enough to drive. By the time Braulio went to prison, Florencia 13 had pledged loyalty to the Mexican Mafia, La M, the most powerful prison gang in California. And La M had exactly 2 requirements for membership: the ability to commit violence without hesitation and the ability to make serious money. Braulio qualified on both counts. He became one of roughly 140 men ever accepted into La M, out of the entire Latino prison population in California, from his cell at Pelican Bay's security housing unit, a place designed specifically to cut people off from everything. Braulio ran his end of a financial system that pulled 40% of all Florencia 13 street earnings directly to La M leadership. He was one of 4 people from F13 who received that money. He managed this while locked in a windowless cell for 23 hours a day. In 1992, the prison told him he wasn't allowed to get married. He filed an administrative appeal. They rejected it. He filed again. They cited Operating Procedure 803. He kept pushing. On May 8, 1993, Braulio Castellanos married Lara Castellanos inside Pelican Bay State Prison. The prison newsletter ran a congratulations notice. Then in 2019, 31 years into his life sentence, Braulio reached out through black community workers to Paul Lil Doc Wallace, a leader of the East Coast Crips. The 2 gangs had been killing each other since 2005. By September 2019, there was a truce. The shootings stopped. In May 2023, the state released him on compassionate grounds. He had terminal stomach cancer. He died at home in June 2023. He never saw freedom until his body was already giving out. Number 9. Darryl Night Owl Baca. In 1990, Darryl Anthony Baca arrived at Pelican Bay State Prison in Crescent City, California, a facility so remote it sits nearly 700 miles north of Los Angeles. He walked into a 7 by 11 foot cell with no windows and no sunlight. He would stay in that cell for the next 25 years. Baca had been inside the California prison system since 1981. By the time he reached Pelican Bay, he was a senior figure in the Mexican Mafia, controlling drug sales and extortion across the southeast area of Los Angeles County, centered around Artesia. His nickname was Night Owl. Around the year 2000, Baca identified a younger inmate named Ruiz, a member of the Barrio Hawaiian Gardens street gang, who was about to be released on parole. Ruiz had military experience and good social skills. He also had a younger brother named Gabriel, who was locked up and desperate to join the Mexican Mafia. Baca used Gabriel as a guarantee. If Ruiz didn't follow orders on the outside, Gabriel would be killed inside. Ruiz became Baca's street representative in Hawaiian Gardens. Baca also gave control of extortion operations at the North County Correctional Facility in Castellanos to Raymond Cuevas, a man who had joined a street gang at age 9 and had 6 prior convictions for armed robbery. Cuevas was also married to Baca's niece. Over roughly 4 months, Cuevas forced Latino inmates to buy smuggled drugs, taxed illegal cell phones, and taxed legal purchases at the prison commissary. The total came to $60,000, all directed back to Baca. In August 2009, a rival faction slashed Cuevas across the head, neck, and back with a razor blade and took over the operation. After Cuevas was released from custody, he and Baca's niece drove up to Pelican Bay to visit. Baca gave the order to kill the rival, Felix Vega. Cuevas called his contacts inside and told them Vega needs to get his medicine and they should take his wind. He made clear the order came from the Bay. Cuevas was also a paid informant for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He received over $339,000 in taxpayer money while running extortion operations inside a county jail. In 2013, Baca helped organize a hunger strike involving nearly 30,000 prisoners across California. That action led to the legal settlement Ashker versus Governor of California, which ended the policy of indefinite solitary confinement based on gang status alone. Counting time at Tracy, San Quentin, Corcoran, and Pelican Bay, Baca had spent 32 consecutive years in isolation by that point. He failed his GED exam 3 times before passing. After that, he worked through correspondence courses, then enrolled at College of the Redwoods, and eventually became a straight-A student in Cal Poly Humboldt's bachelor's degree program, taught inside Pelican Bay. When offered a transfer to a lower security facility, he turned it down to keep attending class. That is where Darryl Baca is today. Still inside. Still studying. His parole was denied in February 2024, and his next hearing won't come for another 3 years. If you are young, and someone is telling you that joining a gang is a path to respect or money, look at what that path actually looks like after 44 years. A 7 by 11 foot cell, no windows, and a GED you had to fail 3 times just to earn. Number 8. Richard Psycho Aguirre. In August 2008, at a house in the Cypress Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy named Juan Escalante was shot and killed outside his own home by 2 members of the Avenues gang. Within hours, one of the shooters made a phone call, not to a lawyer, not to a family member. He called a prison to report to his boss that the guns had been found, but the drugs were still safe. That boss was Richard Aguirre, known as Psycho, already locked up at Pelican Bay State Prison. Aguirre ran his operation through his family. His relative Rudy, who went by Lil Psycho, handled street operations across northeast Los Angeles. His nephew Richie, also incarcerated, used a smuggled cell phone to call outside and order attacks directly from his cell. On February 21, 2009, Richie made one of those calls. The attack went through. Nobody on the outside hesitated because the order came from inside a prison. The person collecting the money was Jovita Aguirre. She was 75 years old, 5'1", and she drove around picking up cash from dealers and delivering orders between gang leaders and her son at Pelican Bay. Nobody paid much attention to her. By 2009, a federal task force had been running wiretaps for 10 months, targeting Aguirre's expansion into the Coachella Valley. His appointed man there, Jose Chavez Huerta of Thermal, collected taxes from local dealers. His enforcer, Tony Rodriguez of Indio, handled anyone who didn't pay, including stabbing inmates inside prison on orders from above. The money moved up the chain and ended up with Jovita, who made the trip to Pelican Bay to report back to Richard. One morning, law enforcement hit 13 locations at the same time. They arrested Huerta, Rodriguez, and 11 others. They seized more than 50 firearms, a live pipe bomb, methamphetamine, and $15,000 in cash. Jovita Aguirre was among those arrested, charged with federal drug and money laundering offenses. Inside the walls, Aguirre was not untouchable either. At Los Angeles County Jail, during one transfer, another inmate got out of his cell and reached Aguirre in the hallway. Aguirre curled into a ball on the floor. The attacker swung repeatedly with a shank, and according to the officer on scene, blood was flying everywhere before staff could intervene. Richard Aguirre remains at Pelican Bay in a cell for 22.5 hours a day. Number 7. Fernando Fernie B. Bermudez. In 1980, a drug enforcement agent in Stanislaus County, California, raided an apartment at 1217 Roselawn in Modesto and found a crock pot, a funnel, and a bag of empty balloons on the kitchen counter. The utilities for that apartment were registered under a man named Michael Murphy. The parole officer for Frank Bermudez had been given a completely different address across town, and had shown up there twice looking for him, finding no one both times. It was a clean setup, until the agent found a key to the front door in Bermudez's pocket, along with court papers and pay stubs bearing his real name. He was convicted of possession of heroin with intent to sell. Bermudez was also under the influence when they arrested him, which is a notable quality for someone running a packaging operation, but the California court system processed him and moved on. That was the first time the state of California met Fernando Bermudez. It would not be the last. By the time California's Department of Corrections assigned him prisoner number B53002 and transferred him to the security housing unit at Pelican Bay State Prison, Bermudez had become a fully initiated member of the Mexican Mafia, known in those circles as Fernie B from the Dog Patch Street Gang. The state put him in a concrete cell with no windows, food pushed through a slot in the door, and 23 hours a day of complete isolation. The reasoning was straightforward. Cut off the leadership, cut off the organization. What happened instead is that Bermudez picked up a pencil. From inside that cell, he began producing drawings. Detailed pencil work, prison imagery, chains, careful line work, and in the lower corner of each piece, a signature. F. Bermudez, with the F rendered in a stylized block lettering that was deliberate and consistent. These drawings were passed out of the unit through letters and visits. On the street and in other facilities, a drawing bearing that signature carried weight. It indicated that whoever held it was operating under the approval of a senior La M member. Corrections investigators from the IGY, the Institutional Gang Investigators Unit, began filing formal reports each time they confiscated one. Not because of what the drawings depicted, but because of what the signature meant. The state of California built Pelican Bay specifically to contain people like Bermudez. He responded by turning pencil drawings into paperwork that federal investigators had to take seriously. Prisoner B53002 is still there. Number 6. Victor Tarzan Acuna. On August 1, 1989, Pelican Bay State Prison opened in Crescent City, California. A town so far north, it's closer to Oregon than to Los Angeles. The state built this place with one idea in mind: put the most dangerous men in small concrete rooms, lock them in 22 to 23 hours a day, no windows facing outside, no physical contact with anyone, and they stop being dangerous. Victor Acuna, inmate number D, 33,299, was one of the men they put in there. He had already survived Folsom and San Quentin through the 1980s, back when race wars broke out in open daylight, and guards let them run. Pelican Bay was supposed to be the end of men like him. It wasn't. Acuna went by Tarzan and came out of Bassett Grande, a street gang in the San Gabriel Valley in Southern California. In a world where most people solved problems with violence, Acuna was known for something different: political thinking and patience. He could read a room. He would sit quiet while other factions argued themselves into a corner, then offer a decision everyone had to accept. By the time he got to Pelican Bay, that made him more dangerous than any hired killer. His orders left that cell on tiny pieces of paper, what people inside call kites. Folded small enough to hide under a postage stamp, tucked into legal mail, passed hand to hand until they reached Los Angeles. A kite from Acuna could assign territorial control, direct money collection, or authorize a killing. No phone, no meetings, just paper and people willing to move it. The FBI ran multi-year investigations into his network. They arrested messengers, money handlers, and proxies. Then they hit the same problem every time. Acuna was already serving life. You cannot threaten a man with prison when he is already there. Every arrest was a staffing problem he solved by naming someone new. In July 2013, Acuna and other Pelican Bay leaders called a hunger strike. 30,000 prisoners across California stopped eating for 60 days. The state Senate held public hearings. A federal lawsuit, Ashker versus Governor of California, followed shortly after. California built Pelican Bay to remove men like Victor Acuna from the equation. It handed him a platform instead. Number 5. Michael Pomona Mike Lerma. On June 28, 2020, inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, a man named Steve Benkom used his 15-minute break from lockdown to make a phone call. He owed Michael Lerma $4,500 for heroin and was trying to get someone on the outside to send the money. Nobody did. When he hung up, Carlos Popeye Gonzalez, Juan Squeaks Sanchez, and Jose Swifty Valencia Gonzalez were already in his cell. Benkom, known on the street as Risky and a member of the King Cobras gang, was strangled with a cord and stabbed repeatedly. He was 39 years old. After it was done, Lerma walked over to Benkom's terrified cellmate and said, "Your cellie's a little bit tired. Go ahead and let him rest." None of this was unusual by MDC standards. Before Benkom was killed, an inmate named Martinez had already learned what Lerma's rules looked like. Martinez owed $300. Swifty stabbed him 12 times. Lerma's standing order was that nobody went to medical afterward. Guards would ask questions. So Martinez spent 2 days in his cell, packing used coffee grounds into open wounds to stop the bleeding. Michael Lerma grew up in Pomona, California, running with the 12th Street Sharkies street gang. In February 1975, he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon in Ventura County. By the 1980s, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life. Most people would consider that the end. Lerma considered it a change of office. He eventually landed in Pelican Bay State Prison's security housing unit, locked down 23 hours a day. He stayed there for 26 years. From his cell, he passed orders through handwritten notes slid under doors on strings made from torn clothing, and used fake law firm addresses to send instructions through legal mail that guards were not allowed to open. When he was transferred to EMDC Los Angeles in 2018 to await federal trial, he took over the unit within days. During COVID lockdowns, his crew grabbed cleaning jobs that allowed free movement through the facility. Everyone else sat locked in their cells. His crew sold methamphetamine at $250 a gram. That is why Benkom's $4,500 debt was not unusual either. On the outside, his sister-in-law Cheryl Perez Castaneda collected extortion payments from Pomona drug dealers and deposited the money directly into his prison account. When a hit she ordered at Los Angeles County Jail left the target alive, she called another Mexican Mafia member to request a formal kill order. A recorded phone call captured her laughing about it. In March 2025, a federal jury found Lerma guilty of RICO conspiracy, murder, and drug distribution. He was 69. 16 people connected to his network were convicted in total. Number 4. Gabriel Sleepy Huerta. On April 11, 1983, on Blinn Avenue in Wilmington, California, Gabriel Huerta got into an argument with a man named Octavio Cardozo and his friend Guadalupe Nunez. The reason? Cardozo owed Huerta $4. Huerta walked away, but he didn't go home. He dropped his girlfriend off, went back to his car, pulled a loaded shotgun out of the trunk, and drove back up Blinn Avenue. 20 to 30 minutes after the argument ended, he pulled up within 10 feet of Nunez and fired once. Nunez died on the spot. In 1984, a jury convicted Huerta of first-degree murder. The sentence was 17 years to life. That was actually his second murder conviction. Back in 1977, he had been convicted under a legal theory that didn't require him to be the one who pulled the trigger. Decades later, California decided that law was unfair and got rid of it. In 2022, that conviction was vacated. Huerta then asked the court to formally declare him innocent. The court said no. The law changed, but what happened in 1977 didn't, so he stayed in prison for the 1984 case. The California Department of Corrections validated him as a Mexican Mafia member, and that sent him to Pelican Bay State Prison, Security Housing Unit, Cell D3222. Pelican Bay's SHU opened in 1989. For the next 26 years, Huerta spent between 22 and 23 hours a day, locked alone in a concrete cell with no natural light. Food came through a slot in the steel door. In 2011 and again in 2013, he helped organize hunger strikes that pulled in over 30,000 prisoners across California. On day 39 of the 2013 strike, 125 people were still refusing food, including Huerta. In 2012, he co-signed the agreement to end hostilities, rival gangs promising to stop attacking each other and unite against the prison system instead. That document became central to Ashker versus Governor of California, the lawsuit that ended indefinite solitary confinement in California in 2015. Huerta walked out of the SHU after 26 years. FBI and LAPD wiretaps later showed that within a short time of leaving that cell, he was using smuggled phones to micromanage shootings, drug deals, and beatings on the streets of Wilmington. The agreement to end hostilities worked, just maybe not the way anyone outside that cell was supposed to think it did. In December 2023, the Los Angeles County District Attorney charged Huerta with assault and running the East Side Wilma's street gang from behind bars. He is currently held at Los Angeles County Men's Central Jail, awaiting trial. Number 3. Danny Popeye Roman. On the morning of June 10, 2020, inside the substance abuse treatment facility in Corcoran, California, a 64-year-old man was stabbed dozens of times, most of the wounds aimed directly at his face. He was dead by 11:11 a.m. His name was Danny Roman. The facility he died in was technically a drug treatment center. For the most powerful Mexican Mafia boss in Southern California, that's where the story ends. Danny Roman grew up in South Los Angeles and led a street gang called the Harpies. Their turf sat right on the edge of USC's campus, one of the wealthiest private universities in the country. Roman understood early that money moves where people aren't looking. In 1984, he was arrested for first-degree murder. On January 11, 1985, he was handed over to the California prison system with a sentence of life without parole. For most people, that's the end of the story. For Roman, it was closer to a job interview. By May 16, 1988, just over 3 years inside, he was formally inducted into the Mexican Mafia, La MA. Around 140 members total, controlling criminal operations across all of Southern California. Roman didn't stay at the bottom long. He ended up in Pelican Bay's security housing unit. A concrete cell, no windows, 23 hours a day alone. 700 miles from Los Angeles. The state built that place specifically to disconnect men like him from the outside world. It didn't work. Roman ran his entire operation through his own daughter. Vianna Roman would make the 700-mile drive to Pelican Bay, sit across a glass partition, and have what looked like normal family visits. Those conversations were coded orders. Back in LA, a shot caller named Manuel Valencia carried them out. By December 2012, federal agents had dismantled the network. 29 people indicted. Vianna got 15 years. Valencia got 27. Roman himself wasn't charged. He was already serving life. There was no point. After a 2015 lawsuit forced California to reform its solitary confinement policies, Roman was moved into general population. That's when documents surfaced inside the prison system, accusing him of being a police informant. In La M, that label is a death sentence. It doesn't matter how high you ranked. 2 inmates made sure of that before breakfast. Number 2. George, Silent George, Ruiz. In 1981, a California state court sentenced George Ruiz to 7 years to life in prison for robbery and kidnapping. The judge told him he would probably serve around 13.5 years. That was over 45 years ago. George Ruiz is still in prison. He goes by Big George, Silent George, or Mums. He came up through the gangs in Colton, San Bernardino, and later oversaw operations in Orange County. The state of California put him in the security housing unit at Pelican Bay, a concrete room with no windows, 22.5 hours a day, alone. He remained in that form of solitary confinement for over 30 years. He has no gang tattoos anywhere on his body. In all that time, his disciplinary record has 4 violations. He missed a count in 1981. He had homemade wine in 1983. He had unlabeled pills in 1986. After that, nothing for nearly 3 decades. No assaults, no weapons, no anything. For the man California considered one of its most dangerous prisoners, the paperwork is remarkably clean. The state kept him in solitary anyway. In 2008, he asked to be moved out. They said no because he had photocopied prison drawings in his cell, artwork created by his fellow La M leader, Fernando Bermudez, which officials believed contained coded gang symbols. He went back to his room. Since 1993, he has been eligible for parole. He appeared before the board 8 times. 8 times they told him the same thing. As long as he was in SHU, no parole. The only way out of SHU was to debrief, sit down with investigators, name names, hand over everything he knew about the Mexican Mafia's structure and operations. The problem is that the Mexican Mafia kills people who do that, not just the person who talks. Sometimes their family outside too. So he never debriefed. He just stayed. In 2011, from inside that cell, he helped form an alliance with the leaders of the Aryan Brotherhood and the Black Guerrilla Family, 2 groups whose members had been stabbing each other for decades in general population. Together, they organized a hunger strike. 6,600 California prisoners stopped eating. In 2013, they did it again. 30,000 prisoners. Ruiz was 71 years old and said he would not stop until he died. On September 1, 2015, California settled Ashker versus Brown and ended indefinite solitary confinement statewide. George Ruiz was a lead plaintiff. The judge said 13.5 years. Number 1. Arturo Tablas Castellanos. In 2004, detectives raiding a house on 81st Street in South Los Angeles, the home of a trusted female gang courier named Leonor Rodriguez, found a handwritten document taped under a dresser. It was a rulebook, a constitution for a street gang. And it was written by a man who had been locked in a concrete cell at Pelican Bay State Prison for the past 14 years. That man was Arturo Castellanos, known as Tablas. He had been convicted of murder in Los Angeles County in 1979 and sentenced to 26 years to life. By 1990, the state had moved him to Pelican Bay's security housing unit, a place designed specifically to cut off dangerous gang leaders from the outside world. His cell was 8 by 10 feet. No windows. He was allowed out for 1.5 hours a day into an enclosed concrete space other inmates called the dog run. It did not work. From that cell, Castellanos ran Florencia 13 through tiny handwritten notes, kites, smuggled out through visits and legal mail. Those notes decided who led each chapter, who collected money, and who got killed. At one point, 40% of everything Florencia 13 made on the street had to be funneled back to 4 Mexican Mafia members, Castellanos included. The rulebook found on 81st Street showed exactly how structured this was. Castellanos required each chapter to elect a president and vice president, hold weekly meetings, and settle internal disputes with fistfights rather than shootings, because shootings brought police. He banned meth sales because meth made people unpredictable. He banned robbing the Mexican suppliers because they provided the cocaine. He required members to check the court records of anyone released from prison to confirm they had not cooperated with prosecutors. That same year, 2004, Castellanos ordered Florencia 13 to push the East Coast Crips out of the Florence Firestone neighborhood. Members drove through, looking for black men to shoot. Before killing a man waiting at a bus stop, they shouted "cheese toast," a slur for East Coast Crips, to confirm the target. Witnesses testified at a 2008 federal racketeering trial that many victims had no gang ties whatsoever. In 2007, a federal indictment charged 102 members and associates of Florencia 13 in a single case. Prosecutors used the rulebook as evidence that this was not random street violence. It was a managed operation. Castellanos issued all of it from a room with no windows on scraps of paper small enough to swallow. 10 men. Combined, they spent over 300 years locked in concrete rooms with no windows. One of them got married through paperwork, passed under a steel door. Another watched his daughter grow up through a glass partition, 700 miles from home. That's the top of the Mexican Mafia. Not the bottom, the top. If someone on your block is offering you respect, money, or Brotherhood. Ask them to show you what year 30 in solitary looks like. They can't, because nobody who's been there is selling it to you. If this hit you, drop a comment with the one detail that stuck. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and hit subscribe. The next story is already coming.